All right, so file reading in Java is easy, but it's not as easy as in Python, where all you have to do is literally say open file, but it's still pretty easy. As you can see here, it didn't take me too many lines, although this isn't the correct way to do this, and in corporate world, this would get you yelled at, so I'm going to show you the way to do this. The thing about reading files is that it potentially can go wrong because you might not be able to find the file, so it throws an error if that's the case. But for this, because now when I was learning how to do this, it involved, my professor had example was you use a file reader which takes in a buffered reader, and it was the worst. Instead, I'm just going to use Scanner because we know how to use Scanner already. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay. So first thing we do is that we create a file object, which is basically the file you want to read. The path name I have for it is Shakespeare.txt because I'm reading a file as the complete works of William Shakespeare. Now, you might want to take a note of where it is, right? My code is over here in whatever folder. It's in my destruct folder, which it doesn't matter. But my Shakespeare.txt, it's at the top level of my directory. So it's not in a package. It's just sitting there at the top level of the directory. That's where you want to put it. Okay. Otherwise, if it's somewhere else on your computer, you want to put in the full path name, also known as your absolute path. Right now, it's using what's called relative path, which means that, oh, you didn't give me a full path, so I'm just going to assume that we're going to start here in this directory. Okay. You'll also want to, very important to note for the next assignment, note that basically it says the file size exceeds the configured limit. That Code Insight features are not available. It's saying that this file, which is 5.7 megabytes, is too big for it to want to analyze. Now, that should give you an idea of this is designed for smaller files, what we're doing. But but mainly it doesn't like giant wads of text. Shakespeare was a very big writer. Anyway, so we create this file. Oh, we'll come back to that in a second when we see our output. A scanner is equal to new scanner. It gives me an error here, and what it's saying is that basically it could potentially result in a file not found exception. So all we're going to do is put that in a try catch block. So we're going to try to read this file, and if something goes horribly wrong, we'll catch that exception. Everybody learn try catch blocks? If you didn't, don't worry, they're super easy. Basically, you put the code that could go wrong in a try block, and then the code that could crash your computer, and then I'll just put exception here to catch all the exceptions, and I'll just simply do sir or system.error.println as opposed to out. Whoops. Right? Which is so evocative. So for instance, had I done, Shakespeare.texas instead of Shakespeare.text, it will compile it, and then it'll parse it, and then it'll give me whoops in red, like it would for an error. Generally, you want your error messages to be way more descriptive. So let's go ahead and do Shakespeare.text. And all this code says is, while there's we're going to take in rather than system.in, we're going to take in the thing I want to read. And while there's a line to read, while scanner.hasNextLine as opposed to hasNext, I like to work in lines, string line is equal to scanner.nextLine. So while there's a line to read it and print it out. Generally, if you want to store the lines, just throw them into an array list, right, one at a time. Okay, so now we run it, and it will just start printing out the file. Okay, and there it's printing out. It takes a while to print out 5 megabytes worth of text, right? It's done. So let's take a look. Okay, so I zoom up, and it doesn't look like I have all the file, actually, when I printed it out. But I guarantee you it actually read it, and this is very important remember that 5 megabyte limit? Right, your console also has a limit to the amount of text it stores, which is also like 2.5 megabytes. So just keep that in mind. So when you print it, when you're working with a large file and trying to print it out over here, just be aware that, you know, it might get cut off. It might get truncated because your console eventually goes, I'm full. I'm going to throw out the oldest line. Okay. But that's how you read a file. And then the rest is just string parsing for anything. Okay. That's all I have to say on that. So I'd be more than happy to take a look at your work as you demo it.